Thank you very much for your participation to the event on India's G20 Presidency, Urban20 today. 本日は G20 議長国インド都市20にご参加いただきまして誠にありがとうございます。First, may I request His Excellency Mr. Shibi George, Ambassador of India to Japan, to make opening remarks. はじめに駐日インド大使シビ・ジョージ閣下より開会のご挨拶を申し上げます。
Good afternoon, everybody. I am delighted to join you at the transformative journey of India's presidency of G20, which we celebrate at the Indian Embassy every year. It is a historic occasion, marking the first time a G20 summit is held in India, a testament to the growing influence and the promising future that lies ahead for the world. As the world faces geopolitical conflict, financial uncertainty, and climatic stress, the need for coordinated policy responses from the local to the global level has never been more crucial. The theme of India's G20 summit, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, One Earth, One Family, One Future, perfectly encapsulates this need. In this context, I am very happy to announce that on July 14th, we are organizing an event captioned Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, bringing together our friends of India and also people who have so far participated in the G20 events to celebrate the theme Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which is an essential element of India's civilizational ethos. India's G20 presidency has been focused on promoting global cooperation and resilience in the face of unprecedented challenges. India's G20 agenda have been defined by 6 strategic priorities: green development, climate finance and life, accelerated inclusive and resilient growth, accelerating progress on SDGs, technological transformation and digital public infrastructure, multilateral institutions for the 21st century, and women-led development. These priorities reflect our commitment to sustainable growth, gender equality, and the pursuit of a more inclusive and resilient future for all. Dear friends, G20 presidency has also provided an opportunity to showcase India's vibrant diversity and its transformation which has taken place in India in recent years. India is hosting over 200 G20 related meetings in different parts and showcasing its achievements in diverse areas including culture, science and technology, tourism and innovation. In this regard, with reference to Japan, I am very happy to reiterate that this year India and Japan are celebrating as India-Japan Year of Tourism with the theme Connecting Himalayas with Mount Fuji. Today's event is on Urban20 or U20, which is a city diplomacy initiative comprising cities from G20 countries. It brings together mayors and heads of cities from 20 cities under a common framework and coordinates a joint position to inform discussions of national leaders. The inaugural event of U20 under India's presidency took place in Ahmedabad, which is the city in the state of Gujarat chairing U20. Over 70 delegates from 42 cities participated at the meeting, making it the largest gathering since the inception of U20. We look forward to the participation of Japanese side and their valuable contribution at the U20 Mayor Summit being held in Ahmedabad next month, which will offer an opportunity to U20 city leaders to share experience and deliberate on joint priorities, ideas, and collective actions for sustainable development of cities. Today, we are joined virtually by Joint Secretary International Cooperation, National Coordinator for U20 event in India, of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, who will be giving an overview of the Urban20 engagement group. We are also joined by other scholars who would be speaking on this topic. Once again, I thank you for joining us today. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir, for your remarks. Next, we will play videos on highlights from the Development Ministers meeting in Varanasi and highlights from the Agricultural Minister meeting in Hyderabad. Please see the screen. 続きまして、バラナシで開催されました開発大臣会合のハイライトと、ハイデラバードで開催されました農業大臣会合のハイライトをビデオ上映いたします。スクリーンをご覧くださいませ。
Kashi has been a center of knowledge, discussion, debate, culture, and spirituality for centuries. A warm welcome to each one of you to the oldest living city of the mother of democracy. I strongly believe that it is our collective responsibility not to let the sustainable development goals fall behind. We must ensure that no one is left behind.
We, as the G20, need to be bold in our ambition. We need to come together to address the crisis as one. The theme of the Indian Presidency, One Earth, One Family, One Future, therefore is an urgent call for action.
We have approved unanimously two outcomes. One is a G20 action plan on accelerating progress in the Sustainable Development Goals. The second is a G20 high-level principles on lifestyle for sustainable development. It is so far the biggest achievement of our presidency. And it is for the South. Today when countries of the South, global South, read this document, they will actually say, yes, India heard us, India stood up, India put our issues forward before G20.
U20 event to make special remarks. He will join virtually. Please see the screen. 続きまして、インド住宅都市省時間法国際協力兼 U20 イベント国内コーディネーター、クナール・クマール様よりオンラインでご挨拶いただきます。スクリーンをご覧くださいませ。
Trying to check in Tokyo if I'm audible in Tokyo. Okay, thank you so much. A very warm welcome to this meeting. I'm grateful to the Embassy of India in Tokyo for having organized this. And this seems to be part of a series of events as India's G20 presidency, which is very heartening to note because this is in line with what we are trying to do in India, take the G20 events across the country, as the ambassador just mentioned. Over 200 events have been organized, meetings and get-togethers across the country. And it is heartening to see that even in Tokyo, we're in line with the same spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which is one earth, one family, one future. I would be concentrating on giving some brief details on the U20 journey so far under the G20 presidency of India. And then my colleagues would take over and give a broader presentation on what we need. India over the next 2 decades has all the ingredients that are needed to make good use of the current opportunities that are arising in the world as we speak. There are 6 priority areas which have been identified as part of the U20 deliberations by us, and as we speak, all the U20 mayors across the world and their representatives are constantly engaged in hashing out the communique around these 6 priority areas. So the 6 priority areas that have been identified are: 1, encouraging environmentally responsible behaviors. 2, ensuring water security for all. 3, accelerating climate finance. 4, leveraging local potential and identity. 5, reinventing governance frameworks and planning frameworks. 6, catalyzing digital urban futures. So essentially, these are the 6 themes around which the U20 deliberations are happening this time. And it all started, the first meeting of the U20 happened, the city Sherpa meeting, which happened in the first couple of weeks in February in Ahmedabad. And close to 100 plus participants from across the world came for this event. This became the largest U20 gathering ever. And I'm very happy to note that almost all the participants were very enthused and very happy with the preparations that Ahmedabad had made, their hospitality and the overall conduct of the meetings and the meaningful nature of the deliberations that occurred there. Followed by the U20 City Sherpa meeting in February, we had multiple events over the last 3 months. The first event was with the U20 and the Y20, the Youth 20 coming together, and we had organized a national level deliberations on the role of youth in city development and vice versa, along with the Youth 20 group. Then this was followed with deliberations on climate finance and climate action, which was coordinated by C40, and we have delegates from across the country and important cities across the country participate. This happened in April. In May, we had a function in a city called Indore, which has been rated as the cleanest city in the country over multiple years. And mayors from across India and also from South Asian countries had come to participate in discussions around what could be future templates for governance and planning in countries like ours, because clearly the next wave of urbanization is going to be led by our countries like us. And are we ready with the right templates? Are we just incrementally following the previous historical templates that have been created? Those were the kinds of deliberations that were made in Indore. We are now going to see over the next 15 days, as we speak, on the 7th and 8th of July, we have the big summit, the mayoral summit, that is going to be organized in Ahmedabad. And the response so far has been truly overwhelming. We have invited 210 cities, 148 foreign cities and 62 Indian cities for the function. And not only cities, for example, mayors and their representatives, but we also invited 150 plus organizations from across the world. And you'd be very happy to note that the total confirmed delegates who are going to come for this event are already 210 plus, of which I think from Japan we have confirmations of delegations from Fukuoka and Tokyo. We are still awaiting some more confirmations. I hope we will get confirmations from the other mayors that we have invited. It will be a great honor for us to receive them. So far, we have 125 plus foreign delegates from 49 different international cities who have confirmed their presence. 45 plus Indian delegates from 27 Indian cities have also confirmed their presence. 38 plus foreign mayors and their deputies and 25 plus Indian mayors have confirmed their representation. 70 plus national and international organizations have also confirmed their representations, which is why this becomes easily the biggest gathering of U20 minds from across the world. And this would lay the foundation for deliberations which would actually go into the U20 communique that will then be handed over to the Sherpa of G20 India and the Union Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs jointly by all the mayors who will be participating in these deliberations. And this handing over of the U20 communique will happen on the 8th of July at around 3 p.m. India time. And that is an event that we all look forward to. We have been able to fruitfully engage across the world. Multiple deliberations have happened across, time zones, and every week teams have huddled together to thrash out the final words that would go into the Urban20 communique. And it is heartening to note that we're seeing a lot of consensus emerge in that direction. The event will, of course, as we've seen in the videos in the just before I started to speak, will also showcase India's diversity, its culture. There will be a lot of cultural events. There will be a lot of culinary events. There will be excursions to historical sites and modern sites that are being developed. It's going to be a beautiful experience to be just around and experience the function. And we in India, we want to be, for us, guests are, we say that Atithi Devo Bhava, guests are like God to us. So we will be very warmly waiting and eagerly, waiting for all our guests to arrive from across the world. And we would try to offer the best hospitality from the national government as well as the chair city, Ahmedabad, to all delegates who will be present. So with that, I would close my remarks, thanking again all of you for having patiently heard me. And I hope I have been able to give you some useful information on U20. And I also thank the Embassy of India in Tokyo for having organized this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your remarks. Next, I would like to request Mr. Nilesh Rajatyaksha, Program Director, Urban Strategy Unit, and Head U20 Technical Secretariat, National Institute of Urban Affairs, and Ms. Kanak Tiwari, Program Director, Urban Strategy Unit, and U20 Technical Secretariat, National Institute of Urban Affairs, to make a presentation. They will giving the presentation virtually from India. 続きまして、国家都市研究所都市開発ユニットディレクター兼 U20 技術事務局長ニレーシュ・ラジャト役者様および国家都市研究所プログラムディレクター
Kunal sir, do you think we should begin the detailed presentation of U20 or
we should wait for the...
See, they're switching on the...
Okay. So good evening, everyone. I'm Nilesh Rajadhyaksha. I'm joined by my colleague
Kanak Tiwari.
We are from the National Institute of Urban Affairs, which is the apex policy think tank set up by the Government of India and which acts as the technical secretariat for the Urban20 cycle in India this time. And it supports Ahmedabad as the chair city for all matters technical, including organization of the various events, the various documents and knowledge products that have been created during this cycle, as well as drafting of the communique in consultation with the other cities from around the globe. So what we are going to do today is take you through broadly the kind of priority areas that we chose this time. What do those priority areas mean for India as well as the globe, as well as tell you a little bit about the kind of events and activities that we've attempted to do during this cycle. And we can, of course, take any questions that you all may have once the presentation is over. We will try and keep to time, maybe about 15-20 minutes for the presentation. So I hope we are audible. If somebody could just confirm from Tokyo that they can listen to us, then we can start the presentation. Could somebody please confirm from Tokyo that we are audible? All right. All right. Okay. So as was explained by our Joint Secretary, the G20, I'm sure many of you are already aware about this, is one of the major intergovernmental forums comprising of a number of countries, which looks at a number of issues that and agendas that we need to address collectively at the global scale. It has three separate tracks. If I may just take a little bit of detail here. So there is a finance track, there is a Sherpa track, both of which operate at the national level. And then there are several engagement groups, 12 in numbers as it stands for the U20 cycle, which focus sometimes on sectoral areas such as business development, startups, digital infrastructure, etc. And then there is one specific group, like the Joint Secretary just mentioned in his talk, which was set up to think about urban concerns and urban challenges, which is called the Urban20. The Urban20 is one of the only engagement groups that actually mirrors the structure of the G20, in that it is actually made up of political representatives, mayors of cities from around the globe coming together to deliberate and come up with a joint manifesto, which is called the U20 communique. And that manifesto is then put up to the G20 leaders for further consideration when they are putting together their own G20 leaders agenda. So 5 previous cycles have taken place. Buenos Aires was the first one in 2018, followed by Tokyo, who chaired the 2019 cycle. Riyadh chaired the 2020 cycle. Rome and Milan jointly chaired the 2021 cycle. Jakarta chaired the cycle last year. And finally, now under India's G20 presidency, Ahmedabad is the chair city, which is taking care of all G20 U20 activities in India during the 2023 cycle. Just click and see. Yeah. So while a number of events have been done, and which we will take you through in the future slides, there are 2 main events that happen in every U20 cycle. The first is a Sherpa meeting, where every city nominates a senior officer as the Sherpa, who assists the mayor throughout the cycle and who kind of becomes the technical face of the cycle. And the Sherpas come together for the first Sherpa meeting to decide the broad contours of the communique manifesto for that particular year. This meeting in India happened in February. Kunal sir has already given you some details, and again, our next slide will give you some more. This is followed by a series of events leading up to what is known as the Mayoral Summit, where mayors from various cities come together, and in India, this is going to happen on the 7th and 8th of July in Ahmedabad. This is the big major event of the U20 cycle, when the communique, as has been collectively drafted by the participating and observer cities of U20, is finally handed over to the G20 leaders. Our team here in India comprises, of course, of the chair city Ahmedabad, but is supported by the National Institute of Urban Affairs. We belong to this institution, and importantly by the nodal ministry, which is Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. We also have several partners, namely UCLG and C40, who are the global conveners, as well as a number of knowledge partners who are supporting us throughout our U20 journey. Just give us a second, please. So there are 2 kinds of cities who participate in all of the events during the cycle. There are core participating cities, and there are about 20 who have participated this year, who are constantly engaged in that process and who are the main endorsers of the manifesto. And then there are a number of observer cities which the conveners and the chair city can decide to include in the process, who do not have a role to play in terms of drafting of the communique, but who can learn from the process, become observers in the process, and who can also endorse the commitments made under the joint manifesto prepared by the participating cities.
Tokyo, in fact, is one of the participating cities.
Tokyo, of course, is one of the participating cities during this year's event. So the U20 City Sherpa meeting happened in February. We had 70 plus delegates from across the globe. 40 plus cities who participated. It was a very grand conference. Everybody went back with smiles on their faces, is what we know. Ahmedabad really put up a great reception, and everybody, we had a great round of discussions as well, which really shaped the communique after February to now, when it is in the final stages of completion. These were the participating cities. I'm not going to list them out, but a number of cities across the world have participated in this entire process, and a number of Indian and foreign observer cities were also included during this particular cycle. Now, this is one of the most important parts of the U20 cycle, when cities jointly discuss and come up with a number of major agenda areas or priority areas, as we call them, which become the focus areas of the year's communique. India put up these 6 ideas on the global stage, and they were highly appreciated during the Sherpa meeting and finalized and endorsed as the areas that we would like to deep dive on. Just to quickly take you through how we arrived at these, we did a quick analysis of the priorities that have been chosen during the previous 5 U20 cycles. And while it was clear that areas such as climate action, resilience, as well as investments in city infrastructure have been on the agenda throughout, continued focus is required to ensure that we can achieve our global targets in a time-bound manner. So those were included. Plus, we also felt that from a developing countries context, as well as across the globe, there are a couple of new areas which can be added as focus areas, which can actually help the growth of many of our cities. These were namely culture and identity of cities, which can help them kind of come up with ideas that are very local, solutions which are very local to the cities. The second was on the front of innovation and new ideas like climate financing, which are coming to the fore. And the third is around spatial planning and the issues, particularly in the developing areas where we are seeing very large urban agglomerations that are forming and which need very specialized or innovative governance mechanisms to be thought about. So when you then think about, just to take you back, so that's how we came up to the 6 priority areas, namely encouraging environmentally responsible behaviors, ensuring water security, accelerating climate finance, championing local identity, reinventing frameworks for urban governance and planning, and catalyzing digital urban futures. We'll quickly take you through each of these in the subsequent slides. So when we are...
Also that another priority which was mentioned by many cities, that it should be a separate priority. However, the chair city of Ahmedabad and through a lot of discussion with cities, it was decided that inclusion would be a cross-cutting priority through all of these areas that we have identified, because it should not be a separate discussion. It should be part of each of these priorities.
So to quickly take you through the 6 priorities that we are talking about, when we say encouraging environmentally responsible behaviors, we're not simply talking about behavioral change at the level of individuals or citizens, but the cycle believes that this behavior change can only be enabled through appropriate industry responses, through appropriate research and academic literature that supports that kind of behavioral change, as well as policy change at the government level. Just to take a quick example, if we want people to use public transport, to cycle, to walk, then conditions would have to be created in the city, infrastructure would have to be put into a city for citizens to be able to take those options or to make those choices. So the encouraging environmentally responsible behaviors is more about looking at a whole of ecosystem change that is required to actually localize many of our sustainable development goal agendas or climate agendas at the level of city action and at the level of individual action. So that's priority number 1. The second priority, and we felt very strongly that this is going to be one of the major emerging concerns across the globe. In fact, this is touted as one of the top 3 risk areas which the globe may face as little as a decade going forward. So ensuring water security became something that we wanted to foreground very clearly. While some parts of water would be discussed under environmentally responsible behavior as well, but we wanted to also individually focus on water security as an issue, where we could take in other issues such as freshwater resource management, river management. How do we think about a circular economy when we speak about managing water? How do we undertake demand management, reduce the demand itself, and also think about water-related disasters such as flooding, etc., and how cities can be made more resilient to actually mitigate and respond to some of these disasters going forward. So that's really what ensuring water security undertakes. The third, and which I believe is increasingly becoming very critical, is because while cities are investing a lot in infrastructure, the additional investments required to really kind of make many of these infrastructure projects or initiatives climate ready require a whole new set of financing options to come into play. And climate finance is becoming increasingly critical, that if we can actually ensure access to climate finance in cities such as India and many of the developing nations, we can perhaps get our climate targets right. So how do we therefore ensure that this kind of access is enabled, whether it is through better regulations, whether it is to better risk absorption mechanisms at the government level, or it's through simplifying processes and ensuring that cities have the readiness to actually absorb this finance, is something that this particular section speaks about. The fourth section, and to our mind, this is a very critical intervention that this manifesto makes, is that it retrains the focus of cities on thinking about their own USP, their own local economies, their own local culture, which during the COVID period was realized is a very important aspect to actually ensure continued economic and resilience and quality of life during things like pandemics, etc. Because global networks failed. A lot of those kind of linkages kind of broke down, and it's really the local economies that were able to really support, and local cultures that were, and social cohesion that was able to support. So that can really be framed through a cultural economy, creative economy argument, or looking at how local solutions can be taken to scale. So which is what, or even local economy can really be made robust and boosted. So that's the task that this particular priority takes up. The fifth one is, like I said, around planning and governance of new forms of cities that we are beginning to see. So while on the one end you have cities that you could not have imagined in the last century, really large cities that have populations perhaps as big as 5 or 6 countries put together. And then you have peri-urbanization and peri-urban areas emerging, where even small villages are showing characteristics which are very urban in nature. So the kind of governance mechanisms that we need to think about, or the planning mechanisms that we need to think about to address these new planning challenges, is what we thought we should talk about, and which can really help particularly emerging economies and developing economies. And also another part that this priority attempts to handle is the question of how do we regenerate existing cities. And I believe Tokyo is one of the role models across the world in terms of regeneration policies, and they've helped us a lot during the drafting of the communique as well, in terms of its wording, etc. So urban renewal became a major focus area that we have targeted under this particular priority. And the last one is about digital urban futures, which, one doesn't have to say much about this. We are in a digital age surrounded by IoT all the time, and the emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning are all actually enabling cities to not only manage services and governance at a very low cost, but also do it spectacularly efficiently. We are doing tasks. We can now perhaps have the opportunity to do tasks and to predict events which we did not have earlier, and therefore plan for them. So how do you mainstream digital infrastructure and digitalization in cities, and how do you make it equitable and accessible to all other major issues that we are hoping to tackle as part of this? We have also, under this process, tried made a lot of attempts, and Kanak will of course come in after the next 2 slides to take you through the rest of the presentation. But we've attempted to do a large-scale convergence with other G20 working groups as well as other engagement groups to ensure that the concerns of the urban sector get reflected across the various streams, across the various sectors, and get tabled at the G20 Leaders Summit in a very, very powerful manner. Kanak, if you can continue with the...
So just to repeat what the Joint Secretary has already said, the Mayoral Summit is on 7th and 8th July in Ahmedabad, Gandhinagar, which is these cities are in the state of Gujarat, and this is the convention center where the event will take place. So just to take you quickly through what is going to happen in this summit. So while on the 6th of July, there will be arrival of delegates, there will, for the delegates who arrive on the 6th, there's a tour planned to the Gift City. Now, the Gift City is a new greenfield development in the state of Gujarat, which has all of the state-of-the-art infrastructure, digital technology that has been implemented there. And it's sort of like a showcase for the state of Gujarat and also for India. So delegates who are able to arrive on 6th will be taken for this tour. On 7th and 8th, we have the formal Mayoral Summit event, and it starts very early in the morning for the delegates with a heritage walk. Many of you must be aware that Ahmedabad is a UNESCO World Heritage City. So delegates will be taken to the old city of Ahmedabad and also to certain very, very important monuments, historic monuments. And this will be early in the morning. And once the formal sessions start, we have thematic sessions. Now, these thematic sessions are designed around all of our guest mayors who will be coming to Ahmedabad from various cities across the world. In these thematic sessions, we would like to hear from the mayors about their viewpoints, their insights on the various priorities. So 6 thematic sessions have been planned through 7th and 8th of July. And these will take place, 3 will take place on 7th and 3 on 8th. And these will happen parallelly. And the mayor of Tokyo, in fact, she's going to be speaking in the thematic session on the priority area of environmentally responsible behaviors. And we're really looking forward to receiving her and hearing her at this event. This will be followed by the inaugural session, where which is mainly a welcome session and a session where a lot of Indian government dignitaries will be speaking about how this U20 cycle has brought to the fore issues that are not only issues of Indian cities, but issues common to cities across the world, and how the communique shaped with all the cities joining hands, and how this communique will therefore also inform the G20 agenda of this year. Besides this, the highlight of both 7th and 8th is a closed door session, which is which has generally been done in every U20 cycle. This closed door session is exclusively for mayors to meet, to deliberate, to discuss issues, specifically those that have been identified as part of this cycle. Besides this, on both the days, we have spotlight events where, as you know, ensuring environmentally responsible behaviors as a priority area is a very big umbrella area, or for that matter, any of the priority areas you see. So we are in some sessions focusing on specific things. For example, there's a session on circularity, where one is talking about circular economy in the area of wastewater and solid waste management. Similarly, there are other such spotlight events planned for both 7th and 8th. So this is the outline for the 8th, which has almost similar sessions. Only during the closed door session of the mayors on this date, we have a very, very special roundtable discussion on climate finance. And this is going to be led by the cities of Buenos Aires and Sao Paulo and Ahmedabad. So these three cities have jointly deliberated and discussed upon a brief that they have prepared for climate finance, which they will present to the other cities. However, the most important event within this larger event is the handover of the communique, for which we will be we will have the Union Minister for Housing and Urban Development, Shri Hardeep Singh Puri, and the G20 Sherpa, Mr. Amitabh Kant. They will be receiving the communique from the mayors on the 8th evening. And of course, there'll be other cultural events and all during the 2 days. I would just like to take you through some of the achievements of this U20 cycle. So the G20 has 2 or 3 major messages, and one of them is that what is G20, what is U20? Sometimes you ask a person on the road, or you ask anybody, they are generally not aware of it. And this should become more like a movement, or everybody should at least be in the know of what is happening in the country. So taking that forward, the U20, and this is called Jan Bhagidari by G20, which means people's participation. And so through the U20, what we tried to do is take U20 across India. So right now we are still counting, but we've had more than 10,000 participants. These include experts as well as students from colleges, even schools, and so across the country in 148 cities there have been events regarding the U20 discussing one or the other priorities in this cycle. Besides this, 19 countries were represented in the Sherpa Summit, and this time we are happy to say that we are expecting many more countries, more than 30 in fact, countries being represented either by mayors, deputy mayors, or equivalent, or delegations from these countries will be coming to Ahmedabad, and we're very, very excited about this. Besides this, the Joint Secretary told you all about the thematic events that we have conducted, 10 thematic events. These are really, really huge events, and apart from this, the convergence with the other G20 streams is very important, because what we realized is while you talk about any G20 stream, cities play a major role in that, because most of the things, if you're talking about Business 20, all major businesses across the world are in fact established in cities. You can take any theme and you'll see that cities can play a major role, and issues of cities in fact impact issues that are discussed in each of these themes. So we've also had convergence events with Youth 20, Civil 20, and Women 20. So besides this, we are preparing 6 white papers, each for each of the themes, and for each of the white papers, task forces were set up. These task forces comprised of experts in each of these areas, and more than 18 task force meetings have been held, and these white papers are now in the draft stage and will be released at the event. These are some of the Jan Bhagidari events that we've done. Some were online through U20 talks. Some were organized, in fact, in various cities. You see this map of India. The dots show all of the places where U20 events have been held. We also have, very exciting, engaging, media like Urban Climate Film Festival or Climate Dialogues that we have held, and these are all available on our U20 website. And if any of you is interested, please do go and have a look. We can definitely share the link with the embassy, and please do go and have a look. All of these are recorded and available on our website. Through all of these deliberations, we have also come up with a lot of knowledge products. These will also, not all of them are right now available on the website, but will be available right after the mayoral summit. We have 6 status papers, which are like a background study about each of the priority areas. We have also prepared country profiles of all of the 19 countries and European Union in terms of urbanization. We've published 6 newsletters per month starting from January to July, and the 6 white papers that I talked about. Apart from this, all of the event reports and everything is available on our website. A feather in our cap was also a letter from the Honorable Prime Minister during the National Youth Conclave, which was held in partnership with Youth20. So Urban20 and Youth20 got this endorsement, a letter from the Prime Minister. It's really a feather in our cap, and that particular conference, in fact, focused on youth. And we also got another endorsement from the Prime Minister for an event which deliberated on the issue of water security. So just to conclude, we would like to just bring your attention to what was it that this U20 cycle wanted to achieve. So we had seen previous U20 cycles, and mostly there is a communique which tries to put forth the urban perspective to the G20. But we saw that when you look at the G20, communiques or the G20 document of every year, the urban issues were not really reflected as much as we had thought they would be. Because we work in the urban sector and we always feel that these are really important. So we really, our efforts were towards maximizing convergence with G20. How many of the G20 working streams could we speak to regarding how important cities or urban areas are with respect to their priorities. We also tried to mobilize the partner ecosystem. Across India, we have more than 250 partners and these by partners, we mean organizations working in the urban sector who have been part of the U20 in some way or the other. We have also tried to magnify the role of cities in shaping global policies. So not only through the communique, but trying to actually figure out and find data as to how are cities already contributing. So while there are a lot of, there's a lot of talk about cities being the largest emitters of global greenhouse emissions, or cities being really really being the biggest resource consumers, we also try to flip the conversation to how can cities be the leaders towards achieving the sustainable development goals. The G20 has given us the message of moving from intention to action through our communique this time. In fact, Tokyo's communique was one of the inspirations because it was really formulated very differently from the other communiques. It was giving action points for each of the priority areas that they had identified in that cycle. So we followed G20's clarion call to move from intention to action. And this time the communique doesn't only mention intentions or what should be done, but also tries to speak about how can it be done. With that, I'll just invite any questions if there are.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for giving us the opportunity.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Now we will conclude the event on India's G20 Presidency, Urban20 today. 以上をもちまして、本日のイベント G20 議長国インド都市20を終了とさせていただきます。ご参加いただきまして誠にありがとうございました。We will have a networking session with light refreshment at the foyer just outside of this venue from now. Please join us. この後、軽食とネットワーキングセッションをこの会場を出てすぐのフォイヤーで開催いたしますので、ぜひご参加くださいませ。本日はご参加いただきまして誠にありがとうございました。